Hello everyone, and welcome to my The Bold Fans channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The fall leaves drop gently, coating Los Angeles' crumbling pavement in shades of orange and crimson. Steffy Forrester got off the private flight, her heels clicking on the tarmac, the weight of her decision pushing harder than the suitcase she was carrying. The city skyline loomed in the horizon, a familiar silhouette that had once promised glamour and love, but now felt like a maze of memories she wasn't sure she could ever navigate. She was back in the place where everything had crumbled, where love had twisted into something unrecognizable, while Finn, her husband, waited, oblivious to the storm that was about to strike. Steffy's comeback was not planned. Not really. She'd departed months before, citing a need for space and a desire to find herself, after their lives had spun out of control. The bold and the beautiful world of Forrester Creations, with its never-ending drama, betrayals and high-stakes fashion, had crushed her. But it wasn't just about business. It was Finn. It was the way his eyes, once filled with affection, had begun to cast a shade of mistrust. It was the way their once hopeful marriage had started to disintegrate beneath the weight of secrets and hidden realities. She had escaped to Europe, hoping that the distance would help to heal her wounds. However, distance just exacerbated the problem. Now, standing outside the Forrester estate, her heart was racing. She hadn't informed Finn she was coming back. She had not informed anyone. The surprise was meant to be a gift, a great gesture to show she was willing to fight for their love. But as she stood there, the chilly evening air caressing against her skin, she questioned whether she was too late. The surprise she held was more than simply her homecoming. It was something bigger, something that had the potential to either mend or break their damaged link. Inside, Finn sat in the living room, the television's illumination casting flickering shadows across his face. He hadn't felt the same since Steffy departed. The house felt too big, too empty without her laughter and presence. He'd immersed himself in his work at the hospital, saving lives to distract himself from the one he couldn't save. His marriage. Every night, he'd come home to a deafening quiet, louder than any dispute they'd ever had. He missed her. God, he missed her. However, he was also enraged. Upset because she had departed without providing a proper explanation, and upset that she had not trusted him enough to stay and fight. The doorbell rang, interrupting his thoughts. He grimaced and glanced at the clock. It was too late for guests. He stood erect, moving with a serene grace, and opened the door. His breath caught. There she was. Steffy. Her dark hair flowed in waves over her shoulders, her eyes wide and searching, and her lips parted as if she wanted to say something but couldn't find the right words. Steffy. His voice was a combination of skepticism and hope, tinged with the pain he'd been carrying for months. "Hi, Finn," she replied gently, her voice shaking. She took a step nearer, instinctively reaching out, but she paused, unsure if he would welcome her contact. "What are you doing here?" He didn't move, didn't allow her in, and didn't close the door. He simply stood there, torn between wanting to grab her into his arms and demanding answers. "I came back," she murmured, barely above a whisper. "For us." Finn's jaw clenched. "For us. You departed, Steffy. You left without a word, a plan, or anything. So now you just show up?" She flinched, the weight of his words hitting her harder than she had anticipated. "I understand. I know I harmed you. I hurt us. But I needed time, Finn. I needed to figure out who I am without all of this." She motioned vaguely around her, as if the estate, the city, and the entire world of Forrester Creations could be condensed into a single movement. "And did you?" he inquired, his tone harsh. "Have you figured it out?" She gulped hard, her eyes shimmering from unshed tears. "I believe so. However, I also realized something else. I realized I could not do this without you. I don't want to." Finn's expression softened slightly. He stepped aside, softly letting her inside. She walked past him, the house's familiar sense of lavender and cedar pouring over her like a wave of nostalgia. She placed down her suitcase and turned to face him, her hands quivering. "There's something I need to tell you," she began, her voice firm. "Something important." He crossed his arms and leaned against the door. "I'm listening." Her heart raced as she took a big breath. This was it, the moment she had been dreading and expecting since she decided to return. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air, weighty and electrifying. Finn's eyes widened, and his arms fell to his sides. For a moment he did not talk or move. He just stared at her, as if attempting to grasp the significance of what she had just spoken. "Pregnant," he finally said, his voice scarcely audible. "Are we having a baby?" She nodded, tears flowing over. "Yes. I found out a few weeks back. I wasn't sure how to tell you." Finn ran his hand through his hair, his mind racing. He wasn't sure whether you'd want to hear from him after everything. A baby. A child. Their child. It was all he had ever desired from Steffy, the fantasy they had discussed in the quiet minutes before everything went apart. What about now? Now, when trust had been broken and their love seemed like a tightrope they were both frightened to cross. "Steffy," he asked, his voice rough, "why didn't you tell me sooner? Why haven't you called? You had been gone for months and suddenly you return with this? How should I feel?" "I know," she murmured, leaning closer and imploring. "I acknowledge that I made a mistake. I realize I should have told you. But Finn, I was afraid. I was afraid you'd moved on and wouldn't want us anymore." He laughed, a sour sound that echoed throughout the room. "Steffy, I've been stuck in the same location since your departure. I have not moved on. I could not. However, this does not imply I am not angry. That does not mean I am not hurt." She nodded, wiping away tears. "I understand. And I'm deeply sorry. I thought leaving would make things better. But it simply made me understand how much I needed you. How much I love you. I want this baby, Finn. I want us to become a family. But I need to know if you want that as well." He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in months, he saw the Steffy he'd fallen for. Not the polished, confident CEO of Forrester Creations, but the woman who was vulnerable, terrified, and battling for them. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe in them. But the pain persisted, forming a barrier between them that neither could completely break down. "I don't know," he finally admitted, his voice breaking. "I want to believe we can accomplish this, Steffy. I want to believe we can become a family. But you damaged something when you left. And I'm not sure if we can fix it." Her heart sunk, but she refused to quit up. She moved closer, her hand reaching for his. This time he did not draw away. "Then let's try," she said quietly. "Let us try for this baby." Finn stared down at their clasped hands, the warmth of her touch reawakening something he had thought forgotten. He didn't have any answers. He wasn't sure if they could reconstruct what they had. But when he peered into her eyes, he noticed a glimmer of optimism, the same hope that had once held them together. "Okay," he replied softly. "We'll try." The days that followed were a delicate ballet of reestablishing trust. Steffy returned to the house, but they slept in separate rooms, the distance between them a physical reminder of the emotional gap they still had to bridge. Finn pushed himself into preparing for the baby, reading parenting books and setting up a nursery, all while dealing with his own doubts. Steffy, on the other hand, tried to demonstrate her commitment, not only to the baby but also to him. She went to therapy and discussed her worries, insecurities, and reasons for running. It was hard, difficult work, but she was willing to do it. However, the shadow of their history remained. Old wounds resurfaced, arguments about trust, secrets they'd each held, and the demands of their high-profile careers. Finn caught himself staring at Steffy, wondering whether she would leave again. Steffy would see the guarded look in his eyes and wonder if he'd ever truly forgive her. Steffy broke the stillness one evening while they were sitting in the nursery, surrounded by half-assembled cribs and pastel-colored walls. "Do you believe we can accomplish this?" she inquired, her voice small. "Become a family?" Finn glanced at her, his heart throbbing at the weight of the question. "I don't know," he said. "But I want to try. For the baby. For you." She extended for his hand and he squeezed it back. It was not a promise of eternity. It was not an assurance that everything would be well. But that was a start. And that was enough for now. Steffy's pregnancy developed over the months, and their relationship began to mend, albeit slowly and imperfectly. They laughed more and fought less. They enjoyed peaceful moments, such as when Finn rested his palm on her developing abdomen, feeling the baby kick, and his eyes lit up with excitement that felt like a lifeline. They were not the same persons they had been previously. They were scarred, cautious, and driven. On the day their baby was delivered, the hospital room was filled with silent reverence. Finn clutched the small child in his arms, tears flowing down his cheeks as he gazed at Steffy, fatigued but gorgeous on the bed. "She's perfect," he muttered. Steffy grinned as her own tears flowed. "She's ours." In that instant, the anguish of the past faded, replaced by the weight of their love for their daughter. They named her Hope to honor the frail, beautiful thing they were repairing. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but when they looked at their daughter, they knew they'd face it together. The Los Angeles skyline shone beyond the hospital window, reminding them of the world they'd always known, dazzling, chaotic, and unrelenting. But in that room with their baby in their arms, Steffy and Finn discovered something new. A reason to keep fighting, a cause to trust that love, even when damaged and battered, could last. Steffy's heart beat as the jet began to descend into Los Angeles. The clouds outside faded into pale stripes against the morning sun, and she closed her eyes for a split second, as if she could freeze time before her life changed forever. She rehearsed 1,000 ways to tell Finn, but each one ended with her choking on the words. She pushed her palm to her belly, the secret she'd kept for weeks burning brighter than anything else in her life. A secret that had the potential to either heal or destroy the delicate balance she and Finn had maintained. Her absence had been necessary. Europe had provided her with distance and space to breathe, a location where the murmurs of Los Angeles could not be heard. She needed to rediscover herself after the chaos, betrayals, family feuds, and uncertainties about her heart. But even across oceans, she couldn't escape the reality of her life. And now when the jet touched down, she realized she could no longer hide. The travel home from the airport seemed forever. The city rolled by, its sparkling glass buildings and palm trees bending in the warm wind, but all she could see was Finn ahead. Her husband, the man she had battled for, and who had saved her more times than she could remember. Nonetheless, the guy she had hurt as doubts and distance crept into their marriage. Could this new chapter, this baby, be their salvation? Or the last crack in something already fragile? When she entered through their house's entrance, the familiar aroma of Finn's cologne lingered. He was in the living room with his back to her, going through medical journals and patient notes. His shoulders were stiff, and his motions were disorganized. She recognized that position all too well. He was carrying responsibilities he didn't share, hiding his pain behind a stern facade. "Finn," she said softly, her voice catching. He turned, shocked, and his eyes lit up with excitement before becoming confused. "Steffy? Are you at home?" She nodded and forced a quivering grin. He came to her and drew her into his arms, the warmth of his hug overwhelming her. For a little while, she dissolved into the safety and affection. But then his hand stilled, as if he sensed something unusual. He drew back, scrutinizing her face. "There's something you're not telling me," he whispered softly. Steffy's throat clenched. She wanted to tell him everything at once, spill out the truth, and urge him to stay with her no matter what. But the words became confused. She pressed his hand gently against her stomach, her eyes welling up with tears. "Finn," she gasped, "I'm pregnant." The quiet between them felt like an eternity. Finn's eyes widened and his breath caught. His hand remained frozen on her belly, as if he didn't know if he could feel the life beneath. "Pregnant," he repeated, nearly dazed. She nodded. "Yes. I found out in Europe. I didn't know how to tell you, I was terrified. But you deserve to know." His features relaxed, but his expression remained enigmatic. There was some joy, but also considerable worry, reluctance, and suffering. He sat down gently on the couch, his gaze fixed on the floor, as if looking for answers. "Steffy, this is a lot," he finally stated. "I should feel happy. I want to be happy." The speaker's voice drifted off. Her heart fell. She sat alongside him and reached for his hand. "I understand. We have been through so much. I've hurt you, Finn. I went away, doubted us, and succumbed to terror. But this baby represents a new beginning for us. To be stronger than we've ever been." Her eyes welled up with tears as she silently begged him to believe her. Finn glanced at her, his eyes filled with love but veiled by the shadows of everything they'd been through. "I love you, Steffy. I always will. But love does not take away the sorrow. I've been with you through every storm, even when it seemed like I was losing you piece by piece. And now this changes everything again. Steffy's breath caught. Do you mean you don't want this baby? He shook his head rapidly. No. Never think that. This child is ours, and I will adore them with all that I am. But I need to know, Steffy, are you truly here this time? Will you run again when it gets tough? His words cut through her, piercing and brutal. She had no defense, no means to remove the suspicion she had implanted in his mind. All she could say was the truth. I'm here, she said softly, her voice shaking. Finn, I was lost. I was afraid of making the same mistakes again, of letting the past consume me. But I can't continue living in terror. This baby is more than simply a new beginning for us. They are my anchor. I need you to trust in me again. Finn's eyes were filled with unshed tears. He reached out and cupped her cheek with love that broke her. I want to believe, Steffy. More than anything. For a minute they just held each other, the weight of the moment pressing down like a tidal wave. Outside, the world went on as usual, traffic buzzing, birds calling, and life unfolding as if nothing had happened. However, everything had already happened for them. The subsequent weeks were a delicate dance. Finn attempted to demonstrate joy by reading baby books, organizing doctor's visits, and gently kissing her stomach when he believed she was sleeping. But Steffy could sense the distance in his touch and the reluctance in his grin. She tried to be strong, to show him love and reassurance, but doubt gnawed at her. What if he never truly trusted her again? What if this infant served as a reminder of each fracture rather than a relationship that healed them? Nights were the most difficult. Sometimes she would wake up to find him standing at the window, peering out into the darkness as if looking for answers in the stars. She wanted to inquire what he was thinking, but fear stopped her. She was afraid that if he said the truth out loud, it would break her. One night, unable to handle the silence, she got out of bed and joined him at the window. The city lights glowed below, endless and chilly. Talk to me, she whispered. Finn sighed, his shoulders heavy. I'm thinking about all the times I almost lost you. To the drugs, Liam, and the fear. And now I'm worried that this baby will make things worse, not better. I want to protect you and them, but I am not sure if I am enough. Her chest wrenched. She put her hand over his. You're enough. You have always been enough. It is I who failed you. But Finn, please don't give up on us now. This infant deserves parents who fight for each other rather than against each other. His eyes met hers, filled with tension. What if I can't let go of the hurt? The question hovered between them, like a wound too fresh to heal. Steffy pushed her forehead against his, tears escaping. Then I'll spend the rest of my life convincing you that I'll never leave again. That you and this kid are my everything. As the months passed, their delicate bond was repeatedly challenged. Family pressures, ancient rivalries, and the ghosts of past loves all threatened to split them up. Throughout it all, Steffy maintained hope. She arranged the nursery with shaky hands, hung small garments in drawers, and imagined the day when their child would cast light on every shade. Even while she dreamed, fear lingered. Love was never simple in her world. It was dirty, damaged, and fragile. And she understood deep down that no matter how hard she fought, there were no certainties. Finn entered quietly one evening while she was sitting in the nursery rocking chair, her hand resting on her swelling tummy. He knelt before her, placing his head on her stomach. I'm scared, Steffy, he said, his voice breaking. But I already love this child. And I love you. Maybe that's enough. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she ran her fingers over his hair. That is enough. It's more than enough. They clung to each other in that moment, weighed down by sadness and hope. Their tale wasn't perfect. It was messy, unsure, and filled with pain, but it was theirs. In the calm hush of the nursery, with the promise of new life stirring within her, Steffy chose to believe that love, no matter how shattered, could still heal.